So in this book, The Gospel of Matthew according to a Primitive Hebrew Text, George Howard hypothesizes, he suggests that there was a process where the text was very different from the Greek, and over time it was modified to match the Greek. What we are looking at right here on the screen is the smoking gun that proves Howard's hypothesis.
Wow.
So we have there the 4 words written above the line, and it gets better. So these 4 words were written above the line, and in all of the manuscripts from the A group, those words appear, but in all the other manuscripts, they're not written above the line, they're in the body of the text. And what that means is the next time they copied this, they copied those words into the body of the text. Now, we've got to ask a very important question. How do we know that they copied those words into the body of the text from above the line? Maybe they were in the body of the text in all the other A group manuscripts, and then in one of them they left it out, so they came and they fixed it, right? And they added it above the line. That's always a possibility. So here's one piece of evidence. It seems that in every place where there's writing above the line, so far as I've been able to see so far, and if I find different, I'll share with the people. But in several instances, whenever there's writing above the line in manuscript Q, and a lot of places in manuscript Q where there's writing above the line, in those very same places, those words are missing from the B group, right? So it seems that manuscript Q is that link, the missing link between, there's a bunch of words that are not in the text in the B group, and then the A group, they're in the text, and in Q, they're written above the line.
Now, certainly you're going to tell me this, Nehemia. You did that on purpose. You purposely titled that manuscript Q, because all through my seminary, all through my studies, we always talked about Q. There's Q. Q is the thing that's missing. But is this just...
So Q in New Testament studies is the source.
Right.
It's a complete coincidence.
God incidence.
Oh, God incidence, sure.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So the reason I called it Q is that Howard listed his manuscripts A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. Right? He had 8 manuscripts plus the British Library he didn't give a letter to. I call that manuscript Z. Right, so just from Howard, I've got 9 manuscripts, and then I sat down at the National Library of Israel at the Institute of Microfilmed Hebrew Manuscripts and started looking for more manuscripts. And as I looked for them, I gave them letters: J, K, L, M, N, O, P,
and
Q. And it's simply in the order that I found it, right?
What?
And how did I find it? I did all kinds of different complicated searches, right? Because they're not always, sometimes it's part of the Shem Tov's Hebrew Matthew, sometimes it's not part of Shem Tov's Hebrew Matthew, it's a thing by itself. Yeah. So, there are 3 manuscripts, 2 of which are copies of the first one. And how do I know that 2 are a copy of the first one? So, it's very common in manuscripts to have something called a colophon.
Yes.
A colophon is information written when you're done writing a manuscript or you're done with a certain section of the manuscript. And the colophon gives information about who wrote it, who copied it. So manuscript Q has a colophon, not from the original author, but from the copyist who copied that particular manuscript. And the colophon says as follows. It's pretty interesting here. So it says, I, Menachem Moscato, son of my Lord Father Moses, this is the scribe who was copying this, wrote in the region of Friuli in the city of Porto Guararo, and it was completed on Tuesday, the 5th of Sivan in the year 5344, which is equivalent to May 15th, 1584 in the Gregorian calendar. So this colophon, let me show you what it looks like. Unfortunately, I don't have a color image of this because I only ordered color images from manuscript Q of the main pages because it was like 15 euros a page. And I didn't get this page I only have in black and white. But here's the really incredible thing, okay? So that's manuscript Q. This now here is the same colophon in manuscript K. Verbatim. I, Menachem Moscato, son of my Lord Father Moses, wrote here in Friuli in the city of Porto Guararo, and it was completed on such and such a date. So we have 2 manuscripts, and one of them has a copy, not just of the text, but of the colophon of the other manuscript. So that means we can say quite definitively that K is a copy of Q. And here's where it gets really exciting, Keith. So in Q, those 4 words are written above the line.
Right.
In K, which is a copy of Q, to the point where it even has the same colophon, those 4 words are in the body of the text.
Oh.
So George Howard in 1987 hypothesizes that we have a bunch of differences between the manuscript. Over time, there's a process of making the and those 4 words are in the Greek. Did I mention that?
Absolutely.
The 4 words that are not in the British Library, they're not in the B group, they're only in the A group. Those 4 words are in the Greek. So Howard's hypothesis was, well, originally Hebrew Matthew, as Shem Tov wrote it, had a lot of differences from the Greek, and over time it was modified to match the Greek. And here we have the smoking gun, where the scribe wrote those 4 words above the line, and then in the next copy of that exact manuscript, the 4 words are in the body of the text.
Now, Nehemia, listen.
I'm done.
You can't be done, because I got to ask you a controversial question.
Yeah.
There's no answer to this. I have a theory.
Yeah.
So, in the Greek, it says, and the prophets. In other words, it's Torah and the prophets.
Right.
I'm just throwing this out. Why might the Greek want to do that?
It's a good question. Why do you think so I have a theory, but I want to hear yours first.
I have a theory too, because we're going to deal with this later in the episode. But here's the thing.
Yeah.
And again, I don't want to go too far, but I at least have to say this. At that time, this is what Howard says. At that time, I love that he did that, Ba'etahi, Jesus said to his disciples, "Do not think I came to annul the Torah, but to fulfill it." And that the English says, the Torah and the prophets. Well, maybe that same people that were, trying to, how you might say...
Abolish the Torah?
Or no, maybe I should put it this way. Theological.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a theological issue here. In other words, if he is coming to fulfill it, that it needs to be the Torah and the prophets. Just a thought.
Okay, in other words, so if you look at, and let's put it this way, if you look at the verses that according to the New Testament that Yeshua fulfilled, what percentage of those are in the Torah
versus
the prophets?
Exactly.
And a much higher percentage are in the prophets. And so in other words, what I think you're suggesting, and this is what I was thinking too, is that if you're focusing on the word to fulfill, and the word to fulfill there means, as it's understood by most Christians, I think, that to fulfill the law and the prophets means through the messianic prophecies. Right? Isaiah said he would be born of a virgin. I've now fulfilled it through being born of a virgin, right? So if that's your understanding of what fulfill means, I understand why you would add in and the prophets. What I love about this, here's what to me is so powerful about textual criticism. I could say, well, the wind is blowing that way, and therefore I prefer the Greek versus the Hebrew. And I could even say, well, even some of the Hebrew manuscripts have that. So it's not just the Greek. It's some of the Hebrew manuscripts are in agreement. But now I've got the smoking gun. I didn't bring manuscript A, which also has the same colophon, by the way, and also has those words in the body of the text. So it's 3 manuscripts, 2 of which were copied from Q or from maybe an intermediary. So it's not just some arbitrary decision to say, well, I prefer this reading. I can show with definitive and objective evidence how I know that the original, as Howard called it, the primitive Hebrew text, at the very least the text that Shem Tov had in 1380 did not have "and the prophets," that it was added in manuscript Q, and then from there it disseminated to the other of the A group. So that's what I love about textual criticism, is it gives me the tools. It's like a toolkit, that it gives me the ability to objectively deal with this kind of issue and answer it, not just from my opinion or my theology, but in an objective way.